Live in Western Oregon, this is NBC 16 News at 5:30.
Good evening and thanks for joining us for NBC 16 at 5:30. I'm Alan Matthews. Governor Kate Brown approved 31 Oregon counties to begin Phase 1 tomorrow, 7 weeks after she announced the Stay Home, Save Lives order. Taking a look at a map, all the counties that you're seeing in yellow, they will slowly start to reopen. Out of the 33 applications, only 2 were not approved. Governor Brown says Marion and Polk counties did not meet the criteria necessary for reopening, but officials will revisit those applications on a weekly basis. The counties that have not applied to reopen just yet are Multnomah, Washington, and Clackamas counties. Governor Kate Brown says overall she was impressed by the detail of reopening applications. She says counties are much more prepared for future challenges. As these areas start to reopen, she urges everyone to stay vigilant in the coming weeks. The governor says she understands that her directions are not always well received by everyone, but health and safety are of the utmost importance.
My job is to make hard decisions, even when they are unpopular. And when it comes to the health and safety of Oregonians, the buck stops right here.
Governor Brown says some counties that start to reopen may see an uptick in cases. If there is a spike, stay-at-home rules may be put back into place. Well, those 31 counties will need to stay in Phase 1 for 3 weeks. As a reminder, this is what Phase 1 includes. People can gather in groups of up to 25, but they shouldn't travel. Restaurants can have sit-down service, but tables have to be 6 feet apart. All employees also have to wear face coverings, and last call for food and alcohol is at 10 p.m. Salons and gyms can also reopen, but appointments are required. There has to be 6 feet between clients. They have to remove all magazines, snacks, and beverages from any waiting areas, and depending on the service, employees and clients have to wear face coverings, capes, or smocks.
It feels like suddenly it's here, but we can't forget the fact that the citizens, county staff members, small businesses, everyone has done so much work on getting us to this point of reopening that this is really just a sigh of relief and proof that everybody's hard work has paid off.
On the coast, county commissioners were asked to resubmit their application with the request of additional documents and adjustments. While the county can start reopening, every business will have to evaluate whether reopening makes sense for them. Commissioner Melissa Cribben says that many have asked if pools will be allowed to open or reopen under Phase 1, but pools like Mingus Park will remain closed. COOS County has a total of 30 confirmed and presumptive coronavirus cases.
I would expect that you might see a few more here and there, but we are very well prepared to deal with them. We've got everything in place in order to track the contacts and lots of hospital beds and PPE equipment and everything ready in case we do see a rise.
Down in Douglas County, they were one of the first counties to ask for permission to reopen when they sent a letter to the governor last month. The county created a coronavirus response team made up of local health and public safety organizations in early April. The team will be monitoring the reopening and are prepared to act should more cases appear. 23 of the 24 positive cases in Douglas County have recovered. The reopening phase may have some people with some questions about what outdoor recreation will look like. The Oregon Parks and Recreation Department have been keeping some state parks open for limited day use even before the talk of the reopening phase. NBC 16's Angelina Dixon has that story.
There are a few state parks that remain closed right now, which are the Columbia Gorge and the North Coast area. But the Oregon Parks and Recreation Department just opened Southern Coast Parks Thursday from Reedsport going south. And they're expecting more coastal openings this week.
There are a number of different factors that go into our decision to open up the parks, and that all is going to depend on our community readiness, our limited supplies, and the safety of our rangers and visitors.
Come on, boys, come on.
If you're wondering about any restrictions or updates on recreational activities, Niehaus says it's best to check with your local Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife. But as Phase 1 begins of reopening, the Oregon Department of Forestry wants you to keep an eye out for one thing.
Okay, well, I don't know if you're bumping right if there's no change of plan.
Fire season usually starts in July, officials say, but because of weather patterns, things are drier than normal this year.
We receive a lot of our moisture as snow in the higher elevations, and over the last years that we're receiving more moisture in the form of rain. So the snowpack is less. You know, right now, this time of year, we're at 50% of snowpack.
And as people head back outside, the Department of Forestry wants us to do our part in preventing fires and reporting them as soon as we see them.
And that was Angelina Dixon reporting. Governor Kate Brown's order to suspend social gatherings until September has the COOS County Fair up in the air. One of the main attractions at the Myrtle Point event is the 4-H program Show and Auction. The 4-H development coordinator says that they are keeping health and safety in mind and finding ways to move forward with their educational program, such as Zoom call presentations and judging.
We're looking at alternatives for small animals, livestock, and horse shows as well, some of which might be postponed until we could do those together live in person like we normally would in smaller settings.
The showings and the auction depends on what phase of reopening the county and state are in, and that will continue with modifications. A senior at Myrtle Point is looking forward to the best auction possible. Last year she made over $3,000 for her goat and has gotten up to $2,800 for a pig.
It's all been going into my bank account to help support myself while I go to college, because being involved with sports and with these projects and everything, it's definitely hard to have your own job and stuff, and so this has kind of been the way that I've supported myself and to raise money.
Projects. She says the bigger picture is that they are still lucky to have the opportunity to have their 4-H program during this time. And happening tomorrow, Governor Brown is allowing some restrictions to lift statewide. This includes standalone retail shops like furniture stores, art galleries, jewelry stores, and boutiques. They will still have restrictions, however. Childcare, camps, and youth programs can start up again as well with limitations. Turning now to the number of coronavirus cases statewide, Oregon Health Authority announced 67 new cases, no presumptive cases, and 3 new deaths. This brings our state total to more than 3,400 cases and 137 deaths. As you can see, the bulk of the cases are in the northern counties where Phase 1 applications have not yet been submitted. Turning to our area, Benton County has 50 cases. Linn County still with the most in our region with 107. Here in Lane County, we remain at 61 cases. Deschutes County also up with 91 cases. Douglas County stands at 24, and COOS County has 30. Congressman Peter DeFazio has been representing Oregon's 4th congressional district since 1987, and he's up for re-election once again. NBC 16's Kelsey Christensen sat down with him. She now joins us in the studio to share some of his political goals for the future. Kelsey?
Al, that's right. As many of you may know, Congressman DeFazio sponsors some progressive bills in Congress, such as Medicare for All and the Green New Deal. But he says there's a lot more work he wants to get done in recovery with the coronavirus is top of mind.
Congressman, I don't know if you saw the jobs report that came out on May 8th, last Friday, but as you probably know, unemployment is at an all-time high, 23 million at least. I know you're obviously in favor of a recovery bill, but what key items do you think really need to be addressed here?
We're at Depression-era levels in terms of, unemployment, and we still need to provide assistance. But the next thing after this has to be recovery. We have to figure out what are we going to do to recover the economy of the United States and be in a position similar to the Great Depression. We came out of the Great Depression because of World War II and the industrialization. My vision is we do it with a massive rebuilding of our infrastructure, rebuild it in a 21st century form, which would be resilient to severe weather events, would use more climate-friendly materials, electrify the national highway network, you have more rail and transit options for people, and all these things would be done under the strongest Buy America protections of any part of the federal government. So they would employ people in manufacturing, small business, construction, design, engineering, high technology, all across the board.
You've been in this position for a long time, right? So I'm hoping you'll reflect with me here, maybe just a few highlights that you've done for Americans, and moving forward, if you get reelected, what would you still hope to get done?
Well, the House, like it or not, is a seniority-based institution, and I have now, I'm the first Democratic major committee chair in more than 3 decades in Oregon. I've been able to do a lot in the minority. 2/3 of my career was in the minority. In a surface bill back in 06, I managed to get $450 million extra dollars into Oregon to deal with our huge I-5 Track Bridge problem all around the state. They were all simultaneously failing. So I've been able to work, even from the minority, to help the citizens of the state.
Now, Congressman DeFazio is also chairman of the House Transportation and Infrastructure Committee. He says his seniority will help the House pass what he calls necessary bills. He also hopes to boost the green jobs industry. Now, meanwhile, Doyle Canning is running against Representative DeFazio for the 4th Congressional District in this month's primary election. She and Congressman DeFazio share some similar views, one being work needs to be done at the border to improve conditions at immigration detention centers. I also met with Canning to find out where she stands on some of these issues. I sat down with Doyle Canning, who's running for a spot in the U.S. House representing Oregon. First question on the list, health care. Millions of Americans calling for reform on health care. If elected, what's your plan on that? And secondly, reform with which industries? What's your plan?
So yes, healthcare is a big reason why I'm running for Congress. I am fighting for a universal healthcare system in our country, a Medicare for All plan championed by Senator Sanders, Senator Warren. This is the plan that our community and our country needs today, especially with so many people having their health insurance coverage cut off in the midst of this public health epidemic. The case for change is getting stronger every day.
Which brings me to my next point. Taking office at this crazy time with coronavirus, the jobs report, the latest one said, at least 23 million Americans are unemployed. What's going to be your strategy, with recovery efforts in this?
So I support, in terms of coronavirus recovery, monthly reoccurring cash payments for the duration of the crisis, and then a smaller amount for up to a year thereafter to really give people a runway towards recovery. I think a lot of the job losses that we're seeing, some of these jobs will come back, some of them won't. The level of disruption to our economy because of this crisis can't really be understated. And we need a transformative vision to really adapt and reboot. And to me, that vision is towards renewable energy. And that is the future for our economy and our country. And Oregon can really lead this transition. Like I said, the South Coast is an incredible location for offshore wind energy. We could be bringing manufacturing to our district and leading the transition towards renewable energy if we have the political will that is ready to take a stand against fossil fuels and really end subsidies to the fossil fuel industry and redirect those towards renewable energy. And that's what I'll do to create jobs and bring those jobs home to Oregon.
Now, Canning also tells me she supports tuition-free public universities. And as a reminder, the May primaries take place on May 19th. That's next Tuesday. And now let's turn back to Alan, who has a recap on what you'll see on that ballot.
All right, thanks a lot, Kelsey. And there's a lot in front of voters coming up on next Tuesday. Besides the congressional district races, Oregonians will also elect a Republican candidate to move on to the November election for U.S. Senate. A race for Secretary of State and Oregon State Senate in District 1 is also on the ballot. Here in Eugene, you can find candidates for Eugene Mayor, Eugene City Council, and Eugene Water and Electric Board Commissioner candidates. Voters will also find Measure 20-306. In that measure, LCC would use bond dollars to address safety projects identified in the facilities plan. In Springfield, voters will find candidates for Springfield Mayor and Springfield City Council. Make sure to drop off your ballot at any drop-off site on Tuesday, May the 19th by 8 p.m. And make sure you follow our election primary coverage. It's all starting at 5 a.m. with our morning newscast. It will end with a recap of election results on NBC 16 News at 11. You can also follow the latest results next Tuesday on our website, NBC16.com, as well as our Facebook page at KMTR News.